from the garden, how to can, and so that's what we're doing. We're working with lots of kids and teenagers. Is I believe that if we can change the way that these young kids are eating, that we'll change the next generation. And so that's what we're trying to work with here. And you have to bear with me a little bit. This month has been a really busy month, which has been very good. We've had groups called Youth Works has come out for 2 times a week to help us here at the farm. And this week we actually had them 3 times, and we have about 20 kids every time. And so today they're actually out there working without me. And but I was in the gardens for 3 hours this morning, and so my brain is a little foggy from being tired and sweating out there, but it's all good work. One thing that I did want to talk about, that we're going to talk about a lot of different types of ways to fight different diseases. One way is definitely by gardening and getting out there and working in the garden. I've got a picture that I'm going to try to show you guys, that hopefully it's popping up here. I've got one here. It says every bite you take is either fighting disease or feeding it. And then I've got another one over here that I just love. It is how to exercise in the garden by using all these different garden tools. You're working your triceps, your forearms, your chest, biceps, legs, back, and shoulders. And so gardening is a full workout. You don't have to buy a membership at the gym for it. You just need to go out there and just dig in the soil and plant things and harvest. And even harvesting, you're exercising, because you are bending, you are leaning over, you're stretching your legs. And so it's a good workout for you physically. Also, when you're out there, you are getting vitamin D from the sun. It is helping fight depression by being out in that sunlight. You are sweating out toxins from your body. And so gardening is not just things that you're eating, it is such a benefit for your body. I want to talk about a few things that you can help fight disease by eating it and growing it in your own backyard. A lot of people think that there's not a lot we can grow in Missouri, and there is so much, and Kansas. So when I'm talking Missouri or Kansas, it's pretty well the same zone. There are so many things that you can grow that is not even normal for people to think, but you can do season extensions. Which means that you make your season longer by planting something by a brick wall, or you cover it with plastic or with glass. So greenhouses, high tunnels, or even low caterpillar tunnels. So those season extensions, you can put them in containers and then bring them inside and let them continue to grow. So like ginger and turmeric is a long growing plant, and that one is so healthy for you. We're going to talk about both of those in a few minutes, but those you can plant right in the ground and do a covering on it, or take it in, put it in containers and move it on inside, and then harvest it in October, November. Sometimes even December is when I've harvested it. And so those are 2 very healthful ones that you can do season extensions on. Another one that we're going to talk a little bit about is moringa, which is can grow here. Last year I planted it along the brick wall, the south brick wall, so it got a lot of heat, got it early, and was there until late. And so it's one of those things that people don't normally think we can grow around here, but we can. Some of the more common things is like garlic. Everybody should have some garlic in their garden. Garlic is so good for you, and it is one of the easiest plants to grow. So I'm going to get into talking a little bit about some of the different plants that we can grow. I mentioned turmeric, and I don't have any here to show you right now. All of ours is in the ground. But it's one that you harvest in the late fall, and it fights so many things. The number one thing that turmeric fights is inflammation. So if you're struggling with arthritis, it will help tremendously with your arthritis. I take turmeric every day, and it keeps my hands from hurting really bad. So that's just one of the things that does. Ginger, another one that is so good for you. And I'm going to skip. I'm going to go in order on my paper here. We're first going to talk about ferments, and then I'll get back to ginger. So ferments is something that we do a lot of here on the farm, and we sell them at our markets. We do different types of ferments. Our favorite and our top seller ferment is one that has garlic, horseradish, ginger, the hottest peppers we can get a hold of. So we do have one that has ghost peppers in it, and 7 other different type of hot peppers in it. We have another one that we do that has the turmeric in it with hot peppers, but not the ghost peppers. It has ginger, onions, and apple cider vinegar. And everything in this is so good for you. It is counted as a ferment, so it's good for your intestines. It has good bacteria in it, and apple cider vinegar is good for so many things, and I'm not going to touch on that one today since we don't grow it. But the garlic, the hot peppers, everything that I named is so good for you. So I'm just going to read a little bit. The population of gut bacteria has been known to influence biochemical process such as digestion, metabolism, brain function, and immune response. The bacteria that takes part in the fermentation produces vitamins, minerals, enzymes, and peptides. They also aid in the removal of unnecessary contaminants from the food. And the list just goes on and on. The bacteria convert sugar into simple acids, alcohols, and carbon dioxide, and helps the biochemical and metabolic functions of the body. And so if you are not eating ferments, you need to really eat them every day, but even better, every meal. If you eat at least a tablespoon or a couple tablespoons of it at every meal, it's going to help the digestion of the food that you just ate. You're going to get good bacteria going on in your bowels, and you're not going to have so many problems. A lot of diseases come from the bowels. So the one tonic that we do with the hot peppers in it, it helps raise your opens up your blood vessels, and just helps your brain to be able to think clearer because it's opening those blood vessels. Opens your heart, opens everything up. The ginger helps calm your stomach down. And there's just so many benefits. The horseradish opens up your sinuses. And then the long term on all of everything that's in it is just tremendous. So I'm going to go on to the next thing. So what we've got in this, we've got the peppers, and I talked a little bit about that they open them up, and we're talking hot peppers. Other peppers are good too. The sweet peppers are good, but not as good for you. Hot peppers, also, some of the benefits is that it helps you burn energy, or not energy, your metabolism. It speeds up your metabolism, so you can actually lose weight. Not if you don't want to eat a whole bunch and lose weight, but it helps speed it up so that it's helping fight that. It can be an anti-inflammatory. It helps get rid of headaches and migraines. It helps relieve asthma. It helps relieve arthritis. So hot peppers are so good for you. Let's see. It also can
Chris,
reduce. Yes.
can I just interject here for a second? You mentioned your market. Can you let everybody know where your market is and when they might be able to
Yeah,
see
so
you in
we were
person?
doing a market right here at our farm, but we actually stopped that last week, and we are doing a Wednesday market now at Independence Square, and we're doing the Saturday market at Independence Square. So this year, that's where we're at. In the past, we've done other markets, but there's just so many days and hours that two of us can work. So those are the two that we're doing this year. Hopefully next year we'll do another big market also besides Independence. But so
then, can you show the picture, the food picture that you showed in the beginning again for us?
Yep. So it says every bite you take is either fighting disease or feeding disease. Okay, and this is so true. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more when we talk about depression.
Thank you.
Can you see it okay?
Yep. Yep, that's what we needed.
All right.
And then I'm going to just tell you we have a few questions in the chat, and then you can address them in your talk here. One is there an ideal season to start harvesting? And the other is any recommendations for having a small garden on a balcony? So those are two questions we got so far.
All right. So harvesting on a balcony or growing on a balcony, you can do quite a bit. You can do a milk crate garden. We teach all different types of gardening styles because we are a teaching farm. And so we love to come to your place and see what setup you have and what would be best for you to grow. But milk crate gardens are really great because you can stack those milk crates up on top of each other and grow out the sides, and then on the very top, out the top. So you could do it 5 high, and you could have several of them out there and get quite a bit of stuff. You could grow strawberries and lettuce and kale, tomatoes out of the top, peppers out of the top. You can do potatoes in it. So there's quite a bit of things that you could grow on a balcony. Of course, just container gardening you can do too, but I would lean more towards the milk crate style so that you can get more production. Harvesting wise, I harvest, let's see, we set up a little different but if you do like a caterpillar garden, which is you do a regular garden and then cover it with plastic, which is a low cover, you can harvest January and February in Missouri. A couple years ago, we harvested January like 15th. We harvested 12 Napa cabbages under a caterpillar garden. And we have high tunnels here. And so we do continue selling and growing stuff all winter long. And it's just a high tunnel is like a greenhouse, but it's a thin sheeting of plastic. So it's not a heavy plastic or glass. So we can get a lot of production through the winter. Even you can do kale and any of what's counted as a cold crop. So kale and cabbage and collards, any of the lettuce things, anything that's counted as greens pretty well goes through the winter. Carrots, beets, turnips, any root crops. Potatoes will not really grow through the winter, but the other ones will. Onions. And so there's a lot that you can harvest through the winter here. And then we put things in really earlier than what is recommended by, I don't know, whoever does that big recommendation, because we want to be able to grow and harvest as much as possible. So we put things, there's some really great, I don't know what they're called. They're like an igloo water-filled plastic container that you put around your tomato plants. And we used them last year before we got our high tunnel up, and everything in it was great. We put the tomatoes in the ground in March, put those around it. Now it takes 2 or even 3 people to set these up, but they do work. That water keeps them from freezing. And then the cold nights, I just covered them up with a row blanket, and they did wonderful. And so you can really start harvesting early. This year with our high tunnels, our tomatoes, we got our first red tomato. Our first 8 red tomatoes was March 28th, which is really good for Missouri. This July 4th is what most people try to get their tomatoes starting to be red by. And so you can really push the envelope, I guess is what you'd say on that. And there's just a whole lot. I mean, we start planting early. Any of the cold crops can be planted out in February and March with no problem, just out in the open. If like this year we had the snow and we had some cold snaps, I just went out and covered up stuff. And then uncovered it after that we had the cold gone, and it was just great. Pretty
So
well your herbs, huh? Yeah.
I was just going to say, so, you've been doing this a long time and you're really experienced. You mentioned you're a teaching farm. How would someone take advantage of your expertise? Because, things that seem really obvious to you, if you're a newbie and haven't ever, just dove in on gardening or done a lot of research, there's just a lot to it.
Right.
For instance,
Right.
you recommended fish emulsion, which I definitely did purchase and did not read the
Uh-huh.
directions and did kill my garden.
Oh,
So I'm on my second round of plants, and they have the benefit now of that fish emulsion having soaked into the ground and gotten a lot of
right.
rain, etc. So they're really doing great now. But that was like a lesson
Okay.
for me, right? Because I was like,
Uh-huh.
oh well, Chris said fish emulsion, I'll just pour it on here, and the more the better. And the plants were like, ah. And
Too
so
much, too much.
so right.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
how could our attendees today connect with you and do more
Okay.
around that, and then we'll get back to the meat of things. But I just kind of wanted them
Okay.
to
Well,
understand your services.
any anybody can come out to our farm anytime and work alongside of us. Um, we love that. We love to share what we're doing and teach people how to do it. I always tell everybody, though, you start small. Um, if you don't start small and learn a little bit at a time, by June and July, you are overburdened, overtaxed, too many weeds, it's too hot out there, and you are going to give up, and you're going to go up. Gardening's not for me, and that's gardening is for everybody. If you eat, you should garden. Okay, and I'm hoping that everybody does eat. Um, but you always take it in small steps. And when you can learn how to do a 6x8 bed and you do it well and you've controlled the weeds in it and you don't feel like you're going to give up through that, like the weather we had last week and the 100 degrees, then you're ready to expand your garden. And so always start small and you want to keep a control, because once you lose control in a garden, it's hard to gain back the steps that you've lost.
How would
Um,
what tips do you have for that? So I did no-till this year and I just planted through
uh-huh.
cardboard, and that's been great. But what other
That is the
ideas?
best. That's our favorite style. So we used to do the traditional tilling, and when we started urban farming we actually got on a grant called SARE, SARE, which is Sustainable Agriculture Resources, something else. But it's learning and teaching different ways to garden to farmers. And so on that study, we had a study for urban farming. and what are the ways to be able to farm in the city, because it is different than out in the rural area. And so we studied every popular style. So we did container gardens, milk crate gardens. We did lasagna garden, back to Eden, pallet gardens. I mean, you name it, we studied it. And because of that, our favorite way is called lasagna gardening. And it is the easiest, it is the quickest, and the most control you can have over a garden. And so what you do with it is you mow your grass. You do not till, because if you till, you're stirring up seeds that are planted that haven't seen the sun, and now they go, oh my gosh, the sun's here, I'm going to sprout. And you have thousands of seeds that are laying there dormant that have now sprouted. And so we don't till anymore. It also messes with the earthworms and all of the good things going on, the mycelium that's in the ground, and you don't want to mess with that. The mycelium is so good, and so you want to not disrupt the growth of it too. And mycelium, if you don't know, is the growth of the mushrooms. Okay, mushrooms are so beneficial for our gardening. So we do the lasagna gardening. You mow your grass, you lay down cardboard. Sometimes we soak the cardboard. Sometimes we pray that God soaks the cardboard. But I don't really worry about that a whole lot. I just put the cardboard down. And we use that instead of newspapers. Newspapers are harder to get a hold of. Cardboard we can pretty well get anytime, and we can store it here and use it when we need it. So we do that, and then we start lasagnaing. I can't even say that. Layering, just like lasagna. We'll put peat moss down. We'll put leaves down. We'll put a bag of soil down. And sometimes if we've got some old vegetables that are rotting, we'll go on and put those down in the lower layer, because they'll go on and decompose and be able to feed those nutrients later on as those roots get down there. And we just layer it. We'll just, after we do 4 or 5 layers of that, we'll do it again. And then we always kind of end up with either leaves on the very top layer, or if depending on which garden we're doing, we might put wood chips on the very top. And then we start planting in there. And so it's got really great nutrients. You know, when I'm building this, I am putting in the different nutrients that we need. And we grow everything organically here. So we're putting in those organic nutrients as we go along, because and we use lots of magnesium, and which is Epsom salt. We put in bone meal and blood meal, and just all the different nutrients that are really great for those plants. Around our peppers, we use, I know I probably look like a weirdo out there when I'm planting my peppers, but I use matchsticks because of the ends. I put about 5 or 6 matchsticks around, and banana peels are wonderful in it. And so we add that to it, and then we start planting in it. And we have now buried the seeds that are down in the ground, so they're not going to come up through that cardboard, and it'll smother them out, and it'll give us a good year where we're not having to fight the seeds that are down below. The only thing that we have to fight is what is dropping now into the gardens from above. And so we can really have control over it, and hopefully get ahead of everything. So that is our favorite way to garden. Pretty well the majority of the beds that we have here are that way. Now we fight, every place will have different weeds that they're fighting. We fight crabgrass and Johnson grass, and Japanese hops are the 3. Oh, and vineweed. So those are the 4 things that we really fight here. And so we have to, crabgrass is just, oh, I hate it. I hate bindweed. I hate Japanese. All of them are really bad. But so, but we, at least at that first year of that garden bed, we're not having to fight it so hard because we've eliminated it there.
So Chris, do you put all the layers, do they go underneath the cardboard or does the cardboard go first?
The cardboard goes first.
Okay.
And then we put the layers on top of the cardboard, and we do at least normally about 8 layers, and then finish it off with some type of mulch on the top. And that mulch is really important because it helps keep weeds down. It helps keep the moisture in the soil for those plants. And so that whether it's leaves or grass clippings or, you know, something like that, it can be straw or wood chips, anything that's going to help keep that moisture in.
And we got a question in the chat. So what's good to plant now? What vegetables and herbs can we plant
right now? So right now you can see we're at July 1st. You can still put tomatoes in. It's not too late. They're going to be late, and peppers too. Sweet potatoes still can go in. Those will all be late season stuff. So you won't start harvesting probably until about August with those. Here in another about 4 weeks, you can start putting your lettuce and your spinach seeds in, a lot of the cold crops, and get them started for the fall garden. Potatoes you can put in right now still. You do not want to put in long growing potatoes. It would be short growing. So potatoes have the short season, the intermediate season, and the long growing season. So anything that is under 90 days, you can put in right now. And so that means 90 days is when you could start harvesting it. And let's see what else can go in. There's so much. I think you could. I'm trying to think what I'm getting ready to plant beets. I'm getting ready to plant more green beans. Cucumbers are still going in. So there's a lot. And so right now though, you're thinking in the minds of what is a warm crop or a summer crop, okay? Because even in our Septembers is still pretty hot. So the different crops that we really have 3 seasons that we can grow here without any problem. So you've got your spring, and then the summer crops, and then your fall crops. And really the fall crops is what you would be planting again in the same as your spring crops. Okay, does that make sense? And even though summer crops are going to continue on through the fall, because a lot of times your tomatoes are still going into November. It depends on our weather around here. If we have an early frost, they're going to quit. But they grow well in September and October here. We've went on and covered the tomatoes. We've had them up through December sometimes. I mean, we've had Christmases that are 60 degrees. So if you just think, okay, what can I grow in the springtime? I can start putting in August again and grow all of that. So it's really a wonderful area to be able to keep growing.
Okay, so I kind of detoured us a little bit, but I know that you have a lot of great information in those handouts that we're going to provide. So I don't know if we want to. Does anybody have any more questions that you want? We could kind of do a little bit of AMA here with Chris. Ask me anything for those who don't know what that means. You could come off mute and ask a question. So I'll ask one.
Okay.
And you've been to my house, so you know where I put my garden.
Uh-huh.
There are like these sort of I don't know, traditional places that we've thought that we should put a garden. And a lot of times we think, oh, it goes in your backyard, you know, blah blah blah. But that's really changing now, I think.
Right.
I know my garden's in my front yard. It looks a little
Mm-hmm.
strange out there, but I don't care. And um, so we do have one question in the chat about herbs to plant,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and how you get the most bang for your space on those.
Okay,
But
I'll talk about that.
but I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts about, you know, sort of how that those backyard gardens have been migrating to the front, and you know, sort of how to choose a spot for your garden.
Right. So yeah, we actually, I know Leslie, you haven't made it to our new place here. You weren't at our old one, but we actually do a, a, a mock of what it would be like in your front yard. There's a lot of housing areas that don't allow gardening in the front yard. And how can you get by with being able to grow plants that are beneficial for you? So our front area is about 75% of what we grow in there is edible, but you can't tell it. So it's like chamomile, or a lot of our herbs are out there. You can put tomatoes in amongst them and just one tomato plant, and nobody even knows that it's there. There's a lot. We have horseradish in the front gardens. We have strawberries. Strawberries make a great ground cover. Um, what else do I have out there? I have huckleberries, and I have honeyberries and elderberries, all in this front flower garden. And so when people drive by, they're thinking that it's just a flower garden, but it's not. I trying to think. I need to go through and count, because it's probably more than 75% of what I have in there is edible. But so we did that at our other place. We did the same thing, and we started doing it like that because at that time in 2016, there was a man in our area that was fighting. He lived in Sugar Creek, which is a town next to us. We were in Independence, and he was fighting the city because he did the traditional growing of in rows with dirt, just, you know, nothing covering the dirt, but just his tomatoes and whatever he was growing. And it was a traditional, what you think of as a farm, in his front yard. And the neighbors in the city was mad at him for it. Now, he won the case, but as a gardener, I can see why people were upset, because during the winter, if he's not growing, it is just rows of soil showing, and it's not real pretty if you're trying to build up your area. So we try to teach gardening that looks good, add some flowers with it, let plant some roselle. If you don't know what roselle is, it's related to the hibiscus. It is, you eat the calyx of it, you make a wonderful roselle drink with it. It's a beautiful flower until that roselle comes on, and then you, after the flower's gone, you harvest the roselle in about 3 to 4 weeks after. And so it's something you can plant in that front yard, and it's got great benefits and health benefits for you. So think outside of the box on that part. But traditionally, there really, in an urban setting, there's really no traditional way of gardening. It's what works best for your yard. If you have all shade in your backyard and you've got to do something in the front, do something in the front, because your tomatoes and your peppers and what is counted as a summer crop needs to have full sun. But in the shade, if you have a bunch of shade, you plant your spinach and your lettuce and your kale and a lot of your herbs peppermints, and any of the mints will grow wonderful in the shade. So think, okay, that's a spring crop or a fall crop. It likes cooler weather. So the shade is wonderful for that. So back to the question about the herbs, we do grow lots of herbs. I do herbs everywhere. So I don't have what you call the traditional herb garden because I make my herbs work. They are a great companion plant. They keep bugs away. They so if you plant basil with your tomatoes and with your peppers, the basil is going to help keep some of the bug down, and because the bugs don't like that strong smells, and the herbs have strong smells. Onions and garlic, same thing. I plant onions and garlic everywhere. Now I do have an area that we just do garlic too, but it's because I grow about 13 different types of garlics. So but if you use those to fight different things, companion planting is one of our favorite ways to grow. And because green bean will put nitrogen back into the soil, so we plant that with a heavy eater that likes nitrogen. And so it's a benefit for each other. And it's kind of the Three Sisters gardens that a lot of people have heard about, that is the old Indian style gardening, where you're putting three different things that grow together that work well together. It's that same system that is being built with everything. And so I plant everything is done in companion planting. Any other questions? You're still there, Leslie?
Oh, I'm here. Yeah, I was just pausing to see if anybody wanted to come off mute and either talk about their own. How many people are basically trying to start from scratch? Like they haven't really tried to garden yet, and they're just trying to figure it all out. I guess just raise your virtual or your real or virtual hand if that's where you are. Yeah, I think we have a lot of newbies.
Okay.
So,
well, you know what,
like,
you guys
like
might
said,
want to do.
The 6x8, like what are some good beginner crops to grow that are really, I'm going to say hard to kill.
Easy.
Yeah.
Well, definitely your tomatoes. Okay. They're really hard, and you're going to get in abundance. Potatoes, they are, to me, are so easy, and they're so fun to dig because potatoes are underground. So when we are digging those up, you don't know what you're going to get, and I feel like I'm digging for gold. So I love those. They're very easy to grow. Garlic is probably the easiest, and you put garlic in for our area. November is when you're putting garlic in. It can be in October, but you don't want to go much earlier than that. And then it grows, puts its roots on first. And because we have decent weather in October, November, and December, it's putting those roots out, and it might get a little bit of growth on top. And then when spring gets here, or every warm day in January and February, it's growing a little bit more. And so and so it grows through the whole winter and then early spring. And we just harvested the majority of our garlic last week and the week before, and we've got a little bit more to harvest still. So it's one of those that just, it's so easy to grow. So beneficial for you. Garlic fights so many diseases that's one of the biggest things that you could do, is growing garlic, and easy. Herbs are very easy. There are a few that are not, but like mints, once you get them established, they grow very well. A lot of people, gardeners, think that, oh, mints are a nuisance because once they get established, they like to take over an area. My thought is, you know what? I would rather have a mint grow than have a weed grow. So let it take over, and I can control it by pulling it out where I don't want it, and I can mow it off. And while I'm mowing, it smells wonderful. So I tend to grow a lot of mints, different areas, and we have maybe, I don't know, 10 different types of mints. And I would just much rather have those than have nothing growing except weeds that I'm having to pull, and that's not a benefit for anything.
You can also
And
put
mints are
that
so good for you.
in containers, right? You can put it in containers to kind of keep it
Yeah.
literally
Yes.
contained.
Yes. Keep it under control if you're wanting to really control it. Yeah. So, rosemary is another wonderful one. It's a little harder to do, so maybe I wouldn't try rosemary to start with. Trying to think what else is basil grows very well. Thyme, in fact, walking thyme is another wonderful ground cover. You can harvest off of it all the time, and it's a great benefit, and it's got a lot of nutrition in it too. Cilantro is one that's harder for us to grow here because cilantro is a cold crop, and we just get hot quickly, and we stay too hot for it. So even in the shade garden, it's still really, it's a harder one to do. We grow it, but like right now, it's all went to seed, which is okay because then when it goes to seed, it's coriander. So it's not going to be not beneficial, and it'll drop its seed if I don't get the seeds collected, and it'll start growing again here in another month again. And so I just let it go. Dill is very easy to grow. I'm trying to think what else. Lemon verbena, one that is really easy to grow too, and lots of benefits to lemon verbena health wise.
So we're almost at time, Chris. I can't believe it.
Okay.
But I was hoping you could put your contact information in the chat for everyone if they wanted to.
If I can figure out how to do that, let me figure out how.
I can send it out to everyone as a follow-up with the
up here. I found it
as well. So I can do that. But
okay. And anytime somebody wants to come out, they can call us and we can work with you. If you want us to come to your place and look at what you've got, we'd love to do that and give you recommendations on how you can garden in your area. And if you guys want to do it as a group, come out and make date for, we could put together a lasagna gardening together here at the farm. So,
and Chris, if people are like, wow, this sounds great, I just don't know if I want to commit to having my own garden, could they contact you and just kind of scratch that gardening itch by coming and working at your farm?
We would love for you to come out, yes, and help, and yes, that's great, and you can always go home with some food.
Wow, and you can learn a little bit along the way, so maybe
right.
You can build up your knowledge and then tackle it again next year if the budget
right.
Right. Well, we're at time, and I'm so grateful for all of Chris's amazing knowledge. Carmelia asks, what's the name of your farm again?
I'm Pepperberry's Urban Farm. We are on Facebook, and so reach out and find us on there and hit like and follow everything that we're doing.
That sounds awesome.
Okay. Right,
well,
I think I got everything
again. Thanks for everybody who was here today. I really appreciate you spending your lunchtime with us on this Lunch and Learn. And I will send out the recording and also Chris's contact information and those those handouts that she sent, and we will try and learn some things and stay away from that that picture of on the right with all the bad stuff that I have
Yes.
to confess.
Yes.
I yeah. So, all right, everybody. Thank you so much, and have a great and safe 4th of July.
Thank you, Leslie. You guys too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.